A healthier, happier life begins here. Welcome to Mercy Moments, a podcast by Mercy Health in association with True Chat.
Did you know that Urbana has a rich history and tradition of providing entertainment? In fact, for well over 100 years, locals have had access to various movies, shows, and other theatrical productions. One such venue has been the Gloria Theatre. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm the host of Mercy Moments, T. Allen Ceyler, coming to you once again from Champaign County here at True Chat Studios in Urbana, Ohio. She's currently the Chief Executive Officer of the Grandworks Foundation and the project lead for the Gloria Theatre, and manages Maple Lane Marketing, a marketing consulting firm. She also has years of advertising, marketing, and communication experience. Please welcome to the program, Stacy Weller. Stacy, welcome.
Thanks, Terry. I'm happy to be here.
So how did you get into the communication field?
Well, I graduated from Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with a major in communications and an emphasis in TV and film and advertising. So from early on, I knew I had, a lot of interest in those particular fields.
So were you originally from this area?
I'm from Cincinnati, but I spent a long time overseas, actually living in Spain because my father coached professional basketball. So even though I'm from Cincinnati, my husband is from the Urbana area, so I've lived here almost 30 years.
The reason why I asked is because I noticed that your first couple of jobs were actually in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Right. That was after I graduated. I was actually working with the CBS affiliate before graduation in the newsroom, and just kind of decided that was one of the things that put it down to good experience, but it wasn't something I wanted to turn into a career.
So why'd you decide to move back?
Primarily family, to be honest, although at the time, if I recall, my intent was to come back for a visit and then take off to California where my sister lived. And that's where the movie studio industry, if you think about it, that's where a lot of that's happening.
So what got you involved with the Gloria Theatre?
I actually attend the church, the Urbana United Methodist, that purchased the theater in 2014. So I was aware of it from the very beginning. My husband was a board member at the time, and I helped them from pretty much the very beginning with construction. And then I came on board early on part-time to help them with fundraising.
So how long have you been involved?
Pretty much since the beginning. Not as much, when we first started in 2014, I was still I had a big client, Columbia Gas in Columbus, so my time was limited as far as what I could spend at the theater. But for the first couple years, it's like I'd help, I'd volunteer, I worked on construction, pretty much whatever was needed.
So are there any other projects that you're involved with here locally?
Well, Grandworks has, not only the theater, but they have the youth center as well. So I oversee both of those, and both of those projects have pretty challenging big renovations in their future. So that's more than a full-time job.
So I guess a good place to start in regards to the theater is, what was that facility originally used for?
Well, it was built in 1904 by a gentleman named Billy Clifford, who was a vaudevillian. And he built it as a theater. And what we know of at the time is it was kind of heralded as one of the premier not movie houses, but theaters in the whole region. Which was wonderful for Urbana to have.
So, because it was originally called the Clifford Theater,
right?
That was its original name. And can you tell us a little bit more about William Shine?
Well, like I said, he was actually very well known. He traveled quite a bit. He was known in Europe and London. And from what we hear and what we've read and what we've researched, the Clifford put on all manners of shows. So he had a brother who was also involved with him, and his first wife was a partner, in the theater originally, but then they got divorced. He got remarried. And what was interesting kind of down the road is as he became more and more successful, he had 2 rail cars, and one of them he called the Middy. And we couldn't figure out why. And then when I was researching, his first wife was named Miss Middleton. So Mitty was her nickname.
Because Billy Clifford was just a stage name.
That was a stage name. And his parents' home still sits right behind the current theater.
So you kind of touched on this earlier. What types of plays specifically did they host? What types of things did they host?
Well, at the time, they hosted pretty much everything. They had a lot of public gatherings, which we thought was really neat. You know, it was a place to not only do your stage plays and your musical acts and comedic acts, but it also was a place like during the different wars. There's a lot of recordings of gatherings there, and they did show, military propaganda as well.
I see. And the theater wasn't cheap to build. I mean, he spent quite a bit of money building it, correct?
Yes. And you know what? What's difficult with that is you read different, when we talk about what it cost in dollars, you read a lot of different numbers. So I hate to commit to a dollar figure there. But what we do know is it had all the modern luxuries. It had 8 dressing rooms. It had a very large stage. It was like an 80 by 40 stage. And from what we've seen is they seated over 1,200 people, the initial theater. It did burn down not completely, but part of it burnt in 1917, 1918. And from what we know, they rebuilt it. And that's when you see a lot of reports of it seating about 700. We don't have any good pictures from when they rebuilt it, however.
So how did Warren Grimes get involved?
Well, he used to vacation. He was a local entrepreneur and he vacationed in Florida. And he saw a lot of really fancy, high-end theaters and decided that he wanted to bring that to Urbana. So when he came back, it was himself and Phil Shackers at the time and several other local entrepreneurs that pretty much formed a team, but Warren was the lead on that. And they purchased the theater at that point from a gentleman who had bought it after Billy Clifford, and purchased it and then remodeled it. And that was in 1941.
What was the state of the building at that point?
From what's difficult is there's not a lot of photos of the inside, but we do know that when, Billy had remodeled it, it wasn't what it was originally, but Warren basically took it over and kind of turned it much more into a real gem of the community again. So I think he sort of took it back to, in time specific to where it started in 1904. Looked totally different. He added a marquee. He did take out about 15 feet of the stage in order to put more seats in. But keep in mind, their intent there was largely cinema related. It doesn't mean they weren't having live events, but the thinking was we're going to show movies.
Why did they name it the Gloria, though?
His youngest daughter is named Gloria, and she actually is still alive, lives in Florida, ironically enough. But 2 of their children live in the area, though. One's in Cincinnati and one's here in the county. So there's still a lot of roots there with that family. And when Shackers took it over in 1966, when Warren decided to get out, he was getting out of the business. Shackers purchased it from him, and they were a local, they actually more of a regional movie company. And so they bought it. They had already been running the movie side of it the whole time. So they purchased it and then they remodeled the interior.
Now, Mr. Grimes spent quite a bit of money remodeling it as well.
He did. And there was a lot of really neat, it was Art Deco, the whole style of it at the time. And when Shackers took it over, if you think about that being the 60s and early 70s, they covered a lot of those elements, just to be real honest.
Did they really?
They took them away because if you think about what the time period kind of dictated then, they remodeled and did what they were doing with all the rest of their theaters.
So fast forward 20 or so years, what was the Shackers period like?
Well, what they did is they decided, they were focused on movies. So they divided the auditorium into 2 rooms. So they had 2 movie screens. And at the time, everything was running pretty much on 35 millimeter, and they had all the equipment. And, I think for the most part, at one point they went to kind of a second run movie. They weren't running the newest things out. But then they decided as the industry evolved and everything moved to digital, it was very costly to do that. And like I said, they owned many, many theaters and drive-ins in the region. And so at that point, I think they made a conscious decision to just start closing those. So in 2013, it was called Urbana Twin Cinemas 1 and 2. They put that up for sale in 2013.
So were there any other businesses on the premises besides just, movie related businesses?
Yes, there's a room It's actually interesting that it's like that. It's part of the building, but it wasn't accessible from inside on the bottom floor. And it's a nice sized space, and it had been everything from a liquor store to a post office to a all-purpose store. The latest thing we knew it was a hat shop.
So where are we at today, though?
Well, today what we've done with that existing space is we turned it into a cafe, and in honor of Billy Clifford, we named it Clifford's Railcar Cafe. And it's just a way to pay homage to him, for his contribution to the theater. So the thinking with that is that we haven't finalized all this yet, but the hope would be that cafe would be open just like any other regular cafe. It's not going to be held to movie times.
We'd like to take this time to remind our listeners that all of True Chat's podcasts help pursue a common goal: to educate people by providing honest, open, and respectful conversations. To learn more about Mercy Moments, listen to the recap at the end of the program. And to search for previous episodes or find ways to listen, please visit us at mercymoments.org. Welcome back. So our topic today has been about the history of entertainment in Urbana and the Gloria Theatre. And my guest today has been Stacy Weller. Stacy, welcome back.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So what exactly is the Grandworks?
Well, the Grandworks Foundation it is a nonprofit, and our mission is to reach, restore, and revive our community, and with a vision to transforming the Gloria Theatre into a platform for social, spiritual, cultural, and economic growth for Champaign and the surrounding counties. Now, when I say that about just the Gloria, it now includes the Urbana Youth Center, which came on as a sister project several years ago.
So I think you touched on this earlier. You got involved through your church, correct?
Well, what they had started talking to me, I got involved initially through the church. But what happened was the church's intent from the beginning was to purchase the building, gift it to the community through the Grandworks Foundation. So the Grandworks Foundation was formed at that same time with the intent. When the church paid off the note on the building, they then gifted it to the Grandworks Foundation free and clear. And at that point, we took over, and ownership is just with the Grandworks Foundation now.
So how does the grant process actually work?
Are you talking about specific grants, or because what we do is we look for grants with both projects?
I see.
That fit the parameters, that are good fits for their mission, our mission, if we're all trying to accomplish the same thing. Those two projects have very different goals to some extent. As far as one works directly with youth, the theater, services just a very broad range of people from youth to seniors. So we both look for both those projects from a grant perspective. There's a lot of opportunities out there to, acquire grant money.
Now, you guys are doing it in phases, though, correct?
Well, the theater renovation, we are. Basically, from the beginning, it was going to be a 3-stage process. The first one entailed taking those twin cinemas. Remember, they had the 2 rooms. So we wanted to take it back to the 1 auditorium because we wanted that stage back, because part of our objective has been to turn it into a multi-purpose performing arts center. So it's not just a cinema. We also do live events. And to be honest, I think as time has evolved, and even with the pandemic and some of the changes that have come out of that, the viability for the theater is much better because we're a hybrid. We're going to do both. And so stage 1 was all about take it back to that 1 room, which we did, and then pretty much reopened in 2016. The other thing we had to do was go digital. We had to acquire a digital projector. We went with a very large 40-foot 4K screen and surround sound. So it's very much a state-of-the-art cinematic experience. The only thing I think we don't offer is the reclining chairs. and because we're also going to do live events, we're not going to install those. It truly is one of those, when you go to other performing arts centers, it's pretty much the model that you see. So
when do you guys project to have everything completed?
Well, that's a good question. Just to go back and add one stage. Stage 2 was, we're still kind of in the very final parts of that. And that was to remodel the lobby, put in ADA compliant restrooms, upgrade concessions. It also includes finalizing that Clifford Railcar Cafe. and finishing our secondary lobby. So there was a lot that went into that, and we're at the very end of that. We've already started stage 3, which is all focused on the stage and increasing our ability to bring in bigger acts, which means we needed a bigger stage. We need dressing rooms. We need some things that currently we don't have. Because keep in mind, again, when Warren renovated, I think his focus was cinema. Right. So he wasn't so worried about those. And I think we had lost some of those in the fires, and he didn't put them back in. So now we're looking to put those back.
So what will be the capacity when you guys are done?
We should be close to 650. Just an interesting note too, Terry, this was kind of a thing that we chuckle about. We didn't know it at the time, but Warren took out approximately 15 feet of stage, like I said, to make way for more seats. We recently took out, or we put back in 16 feet of stage. Yeah, which was almost identical, and we didn't know it at the time, to what had been taken out. We moved some seats to the back, but our stage 3 that we're talking about right now includes a north addition to the building, a balcony, which is what's going to help us increase our seating, and then a south addition. So that's going to buy us additional restrooms, dressing rooms, meeting space, additional storage space, which is badly needed. So it's all of the things that are needed to really attract those big, whether it's off-Broadway acts, but some of the big productions.
So what types of amenities would a patron see when he or she would come in the door?
Well, I think what you get is when you come to the Gloria, which is different than your multiplexes and some performing arts centers, is it's an experience. You feel somewhat like you've been transported back, because what we've tried to do is not only restore things, we've renovated them. So granted, we've updated, we've made them more efficient, we've made them more convenient, but on the same token, we've tried to keep that feel of, you sort of feel like you've stepped back in time. Right. It's more of a personalized experience, and everything blends, so you feel like whether you're sitting in the rail car cafe, or you're getting something from the concession stand, or you're sitting in the auditorium, it all feels like you've had an experience other than just the show that you went to. And that's a large part of what we're after.
Because you guys kept a lot of like the original trim and stuff like that, correct?
Yes. We've kept as much of it as we could. And a lot of it, we actually went back to the Warren Grimes, the 1940s renovation. Like I said, Shackers had covered some of that, and so we've uncovered some of it.
So, and you guys are going to start offering first run movies again, right?
We actually have been. Pretty much, I came on board in 2017, and at that point, we had the ability to run first run. We weren't doing it at the time, but some of that takes a little bit of time. You have to build a relationship with the studios. They have to trust that you're going to bring in the kind of numbers they want, and you've got to establish your reputation. But we were able to do that in pretty quick form and move on. And ever since then, we pretty much have played first run movies.
So what are some of the different show times that you guys offer?
Right now, we're primarily running Friday through Sunday. But keep in mind, the reason we did that is we've been renovating the whole time. So what happens with us is we renovate Monday through Thursday into sometimes middle of Friday. We clean up, get ready, and then run the shows on Friday through Sunday. Now, we do offer during the week. For instance, this week's a good example. We have a private showing where a realtor wanted to do a customer appreciation evening. So we're doing that Thursday night. So we do rent the theater out during the week for a lot of different things.
So what's the best way for someone to buy tickets? You
can do it, the old-fashioned way, come to the box office right before the show, or you can do it online at our website, which is gloriatheatre.org. Both of those options are very easy to do. We've kept our prices very, very competitive. We're lower than almost any of the other entities around. And we've tried really hard to stay that way. Because one of the things, when you talk about our mission, we're all about serving the community. And we try to offer free community showings. We work with partners on that. We offer some different things that a lot of other, if you're just a cinema or performing arts center, you probably don't offer. But our mission's all about serving the people of this region.
That's a good point. So what are the ticket prices?
Well, the ticket prices for, if you're looking at a matinee, your regular adult is $7. And then for children 11 and under, it's $6. And then evening shows, an adult's $8 and children 11 and under are $7. We also give military and senior discounts.
And you guys also offer refreshments, right?
We do. Just like any other movie theater, we sell a tremendous amount of popcorn, and we had a more expanded menu before the pandemic, which we may get back to. But part of what we're looking at is when the cafe opens, they'll probably, the thinking is that you would be able to purchase something at the cafe and take it in to you to watch the show.
So how would someone navigate your website?
The way it is right now, when you go to gloriatheatre.org, it's hard to miss kind of what's coming up. You can also see what's coming soon, but you can do everything. And one thing I do want to mention is that we didn't touch on. Right now we're still 99% volunteer based. So, the people that work at the theater are mostly volunteers. And that's, I think, another thing that really helped us weather the pandemic. We were able to open, as soon as they said we were able to. And even if we didn't have the large crowds we had before, it was okay. Because we weren't, we didn't have a whole lot of overhead other than the building. So navigating the website, you can also, there's a volunteer tab there that people can click on and they can sign up. They can see all the different shifts for different shows that they can volunteer for.
So for those that don't already know, where exactly are you guys located?
We're at 216 South Main Street in Urbana, right in the downtown district.
And what's a good contact number for you guys?
937-653-4853.
Well, that pretty much does it for the program today. A quick reminder, our goal here at Mercy Moments is to promote local resources, awareness, and involvement. Therefore, if you have any comments related to past episodes or have suggestions for future programs, please contact us at taceyler@mercy.com. That's capital TACEYLER@mercy.com. Again, I'd like to thank my guest today, Stacy Weller, for being here. You can listen to Mercy Moments on TrueChat via Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or anywhere else fine podcasts are found. For Mercy Moments, Mercy Health Urbana Hospital, and TrueChat, I'm your host, T. Allen Ceyler.
And I'm Stacy Weller. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening today. Stay healthy, Ohio.